Merry Christmas, everybody, and welcome to Dogman TP Hunting. If you're listening to this by any chance, then it'll be on probably the Interdimensional Voyagers podcast. I need to update that, guys. I haven't been updating it. I've been a bit lazy on that front, but nevertheless, here we go. Very Merry Christmas. I hope you're having a great time. Enjoying it. Thank you very much if you're joining us. I appreciate it, really do. I wanted to come on because it's a bit of a in a way a last minute thing, but I wanted to talk to a guy who's over in the States, and he runs a channel which I personally think I wanted to mention. He invited me to co-host as well, which I do every couple of weeks. Totally enjoy it. The guy has some guests on and people on which know their stuff when it comes to cryptids, especially dogmen. Okay, they know their stuff, and it's the most interesting, and I personally think the most underrated show there is out there at the moment. You get a lot of big shows, okay, which have all the glitz, all the glamour, that is like everywhere. You can't help but trip over them. But some of the smaller ones are some of the most interesting, and they have some of the most interesting people. And I should tell you why they have some of the most interesting people, and that is because they're ordinary people. They're everyday Joes, with the most extraordinary stories. And that's kind of like really cool to know. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is bring on his chat. His name, his handle on his channel is Star Fox. Okay, and here we go. Hey, Star Fox.
Phil, my dude, how you doing, man? Merry Christmas, bro.
Hey, Merry Christmas, dude. Yeah, Merry Christmas indeed. Yeah, you having a good one so far? Well, it must be, what was it, early afternoon there, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit earlier for me to be crawling out of my coffin. Usually when I link up with you is some of my earlier time frames, but I mean, I got some stuff to plug away on later, man. And finally, at the moment, as I'm speaking with you, getting a chance to update and back my phone up to iCloud for the first time in 7 days. So that's pretty brilliant. And that's about it, man.
Okay, all right, that's cool. All right, and um, right, okay. First time you've been able to back your phone up in 7 days. Damn, damn.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had 364 images that had to go up, and like I try to tell everybody, I'm always working on trying to get the videos out and such, but I can't back. I mean, I can back my phone up, but what's the point of backing my phone up when I have 3 45-minute videos on there that are gonna be gone anyhow? So all it's gonna do is waste my battery, take up space that I then need to go in and clear out. So I just pause my iCloud thinkage until I'm ready to, roll. Like I just got all of the images I edited and proper albums, like Dogman attacking humans, dog women, skinwalkers. So when I, make my videos, I can just click through the albums.
yeah, yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like it's funny because whenever I do, sometimes when I do an interview, and it might be the next day. It's not the guy's fault. It's not the people's fault, right? That have an interview and like talk to them because, of course, they want to see it like that instantly. But I have to turn
Yeah.
around and say, "Look, hang on, man, hang on, wait. Kind of because usually we have like kind of a good few hours of material backed up, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So, and then there's the editing as well. Editing
Mm-hmm.
takes so long, dude. It takes so long. So and when you got somebody, and I can understand it from their point of view because they're grasping at the bit, oh, well, all right, when's our video going to be shown? When's the interview going to be shown? Because and I'm like, well, I haven't actually got it ready. It probably won't be shown for another week or two. What? And they're like, oh, yeah. So, I feel really bad for them, but it's only so much, especially when we're smaller channels, that we can do. There's only so much we can do: the editing, the interviewing, the sort of sorting out all the material, the referencing. There's a lot of work involved.
Isn't that the truth? And a lot of people just don't realize that I try to put out quality stuff. And I mean, I do have friends that help me, and I do a lot of my own artwork as well. But I could pull a Witcher season 3, and just throw some stuff at the wall and put out crappy content and get everyone's stuff out literally like boom, boom, boom. But it's not my swag, So I have about 35 hours worth of content cooking up in the oven purposely because that way, I always have stuff to work with. But again, people just, don't understand. It's not that I'm sitting on their stuff. It's just like I do literally 95% of my stuff from my iPhone, and then I do the rest from like my Samsung tablet. And like at the moment, I have my tablet cranking out some stuff on my YouTube. I got my iPhone, like I said, backing up and doing my iCloud, and I'm talking to you on my Chromebook while I'm watching some American
Mm.
football on my TV. So
Okay, yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, I know you're a big fan of that. Um, are you? Can I ask one thing, stuff? Are you walking around at the moment, walking around the room? Because there's some place in your room where you're walking past and it's breaking up the audio.
no, I'm actually just standing right here right now. It could be maybe potentially because I don't maybe have the best internet here at the spot, but I mean, I can hear you
Okay.
quite fine.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. No, it's just every now and then, and sort of like myself, and I suppose people at home as well. It
Hmm.
can it's sort of like it just sort of goes a bit crackly. You know what I mean? It just goes a bit crackly every now and then, and but that's fine. That's okay. That's all right. It is what it is. We'll go with it. At the moment, it seems okay. Oh, hi, Jojo. Yep, happy Christmas, Jojo.
You could have
Um,
been picking up my heater in the background. I have my door closed, but my room's like
Yeah, it
right by
might
my
be,
heater,
might be.
so.
You're fine now. You're fine now. Okay, you're all right. Can you mention for the people at home your channel? Is that possible, please?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Thanks. So, long story short, is I am Star Fox. That's my nickname. My real name is Kenneth R. Thibodeau, which I mean, I answer to that, but not really necessarily the biggest fan of my real name. I mean, I feel like my parents could have been a little bit more creative, but also another nickname I've been given throughout the years is the Rainbow Kid. So, I mean, all three of those is what I go by. It doesn't matter. I'll answer to anything. And my thread on YouTube is all lowercase, and it's just Star Fox _ radio. And the name of my podcast is Midnight Lycanthropy. So when people go to my thread, you can just check out the playlist. I have it all separated. So I mean, if you have like specific hosts that you like to listen to more than others, it's all up there. And I mean, I got like the science section. It's all broken down. So I mean, if you just want to listen to my science team speak and all the scientists we work with, it's all like right up on there. So
Okay. Anyone wanting to know, I'm going to post all the links on the bottom of this on the description anyway. So there'll be his YouTube, Facebook, everything will be on there. So if you want to just check that out, I highly recommend that you do at home, guys, because his channel, what interested me about him is because he's just got a lot of really cool people on there, people that really know their stuff, and that's what really impressed me. Uh, I don't do with all the flaff and the glitz and the just coming on to get as many subscribers and to get as many likes, and I came into this, I think a lot of times like Star Fox did, to find out exactly what is going on, what are people seeing out there, because they are seeing stuff out there all the while, and it's I just want to know. I really just want to know. I know I've seen stuff, and yeah, it's just this sort of need, this like hunger to find out. Um, Now the comments are open, guys. Okay, so anyone that has got a question, even if you've got a question because you're in the UK and you want to ask a question because with Star Fox is over in the States. And it's American orientated, and you want to find out over there, kind of like what's going on, or if there's any differential between sightings, if there's anything which is slightly different, or you want to just ask a general question, please do in the comments. That's fine. Well, I'm sure that Star Fox do his best to answer. I will as well. But one thing I wanted to ask you, Star Fox, was with all of the stories that you've heard so far, what would strike you as like the most um, interesting, the one which you kind of like was your genesis? What was this story which was your genesis story that started you thinking, oh, hang on, what's going on? There's something going on here.
a great question. And to give you a quality answer, it wasn't directly just one encounter or story. It was actually three things, more or less. I was in high school, and stumbled upon Monster Quest, and through there, I saw who Jody Cook was and Linda Godfrey, and through that, I started doing a ton of back checking on them, seeing what they're up to, and that's how I found out about the North American Dogman project and all of Linda's great stuff. So I guess if I had to give three people kudos for that, it would definitely be Jody Cook, Linda Godfrey, and Doug Hychak for pretty much piquing my interest. He's the one that created Monster Quest on History Channel.
Okay, cool. North American Dogman project. Did they are they a standalone page? Are they a standalone on Facebook? Are they a standalone page? Or are they affiliated with another page? Are they like a standalone one?
We actually have a ton of different pages up there. Yeah, so if you go to my actual page, I represent the Maine division because that's where I am. I'm up in the Northeast, East Coast, so I'm up in Maine. But yeah, pretty much every we break our stuff down into regions. So you have like region 3, which is all in New England, then you have your state reps and such. So yes, we do have all of those Facebook groups, and we also have a website, the North American Dogman Project.com, where we can put up things that, well, I can't really share on Facebook. For example, like a coyote massacre that we've been looking into, where a very large pack of coyotes was ripped apart. So just things that we've been able to verify, but are a little bit too outside of the comfort of YouTube, because I mean, I try to stay as PG-13 as possible, where people, get the aspect of what it is we're talking about. But I mean, I bleep out swears on my show if someone does swear, and certain words, like if somebody, would like to speak about political stuff, I try to say officials and try not to use certain 3-letter words. So, say like the alphabet boys and such, along the lines of that, just to keep it as minimal as possible, where you get the quality information, but you don't need to hear people swearing to understand what's being said. You don't need to hear the words that go with unalived and deceased. You can use those type of words and people kind of get the realm of what's going on. But like I said, if anyone wants to really see some of the more gory stuff that we're unable to show on YouTube, you can just definitely go to the website. I mean, that will show you, unfortunately, a ton of animal mutilations and such.
Hmm.
Phil, you broke. I can't hear you, my friend.
Okay. Yeah,
There we go.
Maine. Yeah, hi, guy. Maine, isn't that where Stephen King's based? He writes a lot of stuff around the Maine area, doesn't he?
He used to be up here. He's pretty old school now, so he's down in Florida, which is what a lot of the elderly people in New England do, I guess. They tend to venture down to warmer weathers towards the end of their existence, because he's pushing like 80. But yeah, that's where he's from up here. And I, am obviously familiar with him, but I must say the only really 2 movies that I guess enjoy by him would be Pet Cemetery. That's okay. And Silver Bullet was all right, but the book itself is what really got me interested to that, because I read that in high school, the Silver Bullet book with all the illustrations and everything. And that was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm not really necessarily the biggest fan of him. You're going to laugh, man. I like creature features, okay? I get that from my rest in peace. Yeah, I'm not big onto horror, man. I don't like to just watch people like hacking and slaying, but I think vampires and werewolves and witches and things like the Lord of the Rings and all kinds of stuff along those lines as being cool. Like I said, creature features, but definitely not really big into the gore. And I feel like Stephen King ventures a little bit into the creature features, but he's more of the hack and slay and the psychological stuff, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he does. He does some. It, after reading a few of his books, I read Christine, saw the film as well, and he has a long build up. So he might have 2-3 chapters about a character and goes into such great detail about this character, and then in the following chapter he kills them off, and you're like, what? And you
Yep.
learn everything about the guy's life or the lady's life, and then boom, they're dead. They've had their head sliced off or something like that, and you're like, what? Like it's one thing I do find about him is he's got a great understanding of the occult, Stephen King. He seems to have a great, or he does a lot of research on his books. Christine, for instance, the very facts back in the day that he wrote a book where a malevolent entity could be hosted, if you like, or take over a vehicle. A vehicle takes on, a malevolent entity's spirit, essence, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that is like kind of and Pet Cemetery as well. It's another one. With the dead animals actually, coming back. It's like crazy stuff. Really crazy stuff. Especially back in the day. I mean, he was. He cut through. Before that, there wasn't really a great deal before Stephen King, except for the old school writers, the classics, the H.P. Lovecraft and kind of writers like that. But Stephen King was a modern day writer, which, Salem's Lot, fantastic. I can't wait to see the new one as well. I haven't seen the new one yet, Salem's Lot.
That's pretty dope, actually.
Have you seen it?
The newest one? I have. I mean, I haven't really seen the oldest one because it's just super outdated. I can deal with some certain old things are like absolutely brilliant, like the 1922 Nosferatu film, but then other stuff is just so cheese that it is super hard to dive into, and you're gonna laugh here. My favorite author, if I had to pick one for horror, would definitely be R.L. Stine and Goosebumps. But then my second one would be Dean Koontz. He had this book called Phantoms that was absolutely nightmare fuel, and the movie was all right. I mean, it could have been done a little bit better, but it was pretty messed up as a kid. I mean, now that I go back and watch it as an adult, it's definitely outdated. But yeah, Dean Koontz was decent too, but like I said, I wasn't really into that. I mean, if I had to again pick a favorite book from my childhood, it probably would have been Jurassic Park, man. I mean, same thing. That's like a horror kind of novel as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, talking about horrors, with Bray Road, have you had anyone come on to talk to you about Bray Road that is a standout, something of which you thought to yourself? Because I know I've heard that with Bray Road now, the police patrol it, man, and they don't let anyone stop on Bray Road. They don't let anyone kind of like investigate the area. There's nothing like that goes on. It's really censored. But I just wondered if you had anyone actually come onto your show or talk to you that has been there and like kind of that can tell us a little bit about it.
So that's a great question as well. And I actually have not, to be quite honest with you, the majority of the stuff that comes out of Bray Road now is just kind of like any other new potential encounter. Sounds interesting, but there's not really a lot to dive into it. I would say the honeypot on that is definitely Godfrey and all the people she spoke to about, because that's when it was fresh, and that's also when there was a huge manila folder that one of the town council members had that was listed as werewolf and such. So anyone out there that really does want to know about Bray Road, I would definitely highly suggest reading Linda's stuff, because she was in that area directly. And even per se, like you were saying, if they are patrolling stuff now, she was able to go hand in hand and talk to a ton of witnesses. So I think she probably will have the greatest information on that topic, maybe forever.
Okay.
Phil, you muted yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I did. Right. Do you think? Do you think that with these places like Bray Road, and we have in the UK, we have places like Flixton, and we have places like Cannock Chase. Do you think that these places they can get hammered? They can get hammered by investigators. They can get hammered by It's one of these things where it's a one-time shot. It happens. People see, they get a spate of sightings. It might last for however long. some people say 7 years. I don't particularly believe that every 7 years this thing kind of like appears, but
Nor do I.
I think that's a bit of a fallacy. I'm glad we agree on that. But do you think that it um it it's not a thing where it stays in one location because it's tied to a location? It's something which is seen. It's a transient place that people see these things, and then it moves on.
Great question,
Um,
and yeah, I'm totally with you on that as well. I don't think the 7 year thing has anything to do with anything. I think that was more or less maybe in the past where people just weren't communicating enough with each other, and maybe they would see a relative or somebody from the city every few years. So then obviously you're going to have that lapse where people are like, oh, wait a second, every 7 years. But in actuality, I agree. I think, yes, they travel. I mean, if you look at anything that is a carnivorous animal, or even something that's omnivorous. Bears will stay in an area for the season while they can gather their food and such, and then they leave afterwards. Well, if you look at wolves and cougars and things that specifically feed on flesh, they're always on the move because herbivores are always on the move. Meaning, if you are omnivorous, you can pin up in an area and eat the berries and all kinds of other stuff. But if the majority of your food source is going to be meat based, yeah, you're always going to be moving and following your game animals and such. So I just think it's no different than any other predator. I mean, wolves have like a 350-mile radius that they travel away from their den, and they also will feed anywhere from 30 to 35 miles away from the den. So that's why I try to explain to people, for example, when down in Tennessee, they're like, oh, we have no wolves down here. It's like, dude, Michigan and Wisconsin are right up there. And, as I just stated, they travel 350 miles, give or take, even more sometimes. So what makes people down in Tennessee think that a timber wolf and gray wolf from Michigan wouldn't come down to that area and scope around to see if it can reclaim that area, if it can find a mate? And I mean, that's also what males do as well. So I just think a lot of times people assume certain aspects instead of actually looking into science. And that's something that really kind of drives me batty, is that people either like science or they like the clickbait cryptid stuff. There's just like such a huge difference. I mean, like last night, somebody tried to present a big time hoaxer to me. And I was like, I have no desire to watch this, to speak to this, or even give my brain a thought process on this individual. And they're like, why is that? And I was like, dude, the fact that you're making me already respond to this, you're wasting time that I could be spending on valuable things. And just as I stated, no science at all, nothing. I mean, at the end of the day, human testimonial is interesting for sure, but it's also been proven to not be very quality in certain aspects as well. And if people want to deal with science and things, then we just need, evidence to show. I mean, I can't contact my science team and send stuff to my environmentalist, my biologist, my tracker, my mental health specialist, my cryptozoologist, my spelunker and paleontologist expert, our geologist, all of these things. I can't send these things out when it's just a story, because it's no different than what I'm listening to. I mean, they can't look at that as anything else to verify it. It's just really important, especially in my eyes, to talk about things when we have footprints that can't be verified. We have unknown vocalizations that don't fit into the realm of things. We have known animals that fall into the sighting range. And that's really just what I try to do, is whenever I open my mouth about anything, it's just to make sure that I've done my research and that I have different arguments to present, whether or not I might not fully subscribe to that side, but it might be a logical aspect of having to play the devil's advocate, which is what I try to do, subjective and objective.
Yeah, sure. Would you are you the type of person that because I think I honestly do think that you would I was trying to think of the right term. Call a spade from the point of view of if it wasn't anything, you wouldn't make something out of it. If somebody came to you and said, if I came to you and said, "Oh, I was out, Star Fox, I was out in the woods earlier, and I heard this noise like a growl," and I was like, "Oh," and knowing full well that it was probably a kind of like a male fox, that was like kind of, or fox that was on heat, and I'd be like, would you, you wouldn't be the sort, you're very much evidence based. You're very much, you critique your guests, don't you? You double check with them over their accounts and what they're saying. You don't just take things on face value.
Great stuff right there, man. And yes,
Mm,
100%. I mean, I always try to back check and fact check people as much as possible. Send it out to all my science members, send it out to Jody, everybody else, and we come to an opinion. Hey, we've done enough checking on this individual. We can't really verify more of what they're saying, but we also can't debunk it. So it's going to be in limbo 50-50. But yeah, you got to call a spade, man. I mean, recently somebody sent us something where she believed it was a deer that had been attacked by some sort of dog, man. But as you look at the image, there's a bullet hole in the back shoulder, man. And most
mm,
likely this wounded deer then collapsed, and raccoons or foxes or coyotes in the area started chumming away on it. And
yeah.
we pointed that out to her, and afterwards she's like, "Oh wow, great observation." But she was hell bent on the fact, just because it was down near the LBL, it had to be some sort of dog, man. And man, that's such a huge problem, dude. Is every 2 seconds people just seem to forget that we have animals and we have nature. I mean, just because at 3 in the morning, someone's witching hour, you hear something hit the top of your house. Well, I live in a forest. Okay. So before I think there's a dog man ripping in through my roof, well, there's trees that have acorns over my house. There's branches. We, like I said, live in a forest where there's a lot of wind sometimes. There
Mm.
are pine cones. I mean, there's all kinds of things that could potentially cause that big bang on your roof that someone else might assume, oh, that had to be a dogman or Bigfoot throwing a rock. Sure,
Mm.
if there's logical evidence to support that, but like I just said, I just named off 4 reasons why it could be something very natural based.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a good answer. Very good answer. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that. Why why do you think throughout history that there's been drawings, carvings, there's been from ear to mouth, through the generations, stories, be it werewolf, and as we're going from Eastern Europe, Latvia, Romania, Croatia, um, places like that, even Far East as well. We've got, even in India, we've got the tribe, the Cyanocephali. We've got all these stories. Do you think it's a case that, um, and then we've got, what I'm getting at is, we've got all those stories which talk about a half man, half dog creature, predominantly with a dog's wolf's head on a man's body. So we have all those over there sightings. We've got old manuscripts, literature, even fairy tales, Little Red Riding Hood, stuff like that, going back for hundreds of years. But then we have, on the other side, we have in Native Americans, we have stories of, they call them, like, well, they sometimes they don't call them. I've spoken to Native American, and he doesn't call it by a name because they're fearful of calling it by a name in case it brings upon a bad luck, or they appear. But they have skinwalkers, which could be construed as more or less the same. They have the same type of entity who lives in the forest. They're very mindful of the fact of these beings. Do you think that it is a case of, what's the word? Do you really think it's a case of people hearing the stories and then, and when they're out in the woods and they're out in the forest, they hear or they see certain stuff, they put two and two together and come up with five? Do you think that they're kind of like seeing something which is basically from their past, from their childhood, from growing up, stories, that they've heard. Do you think it's a case of that, what they're seeing a lot of times?
That's a great question as well. And that's a pretty large answer, but I do seem to think, just in general, I mean, I've used this as an example. If you are heading out to the forest and you are a big Sasquatch guy, and I'm a big Dogman person, and somebody else with us is a big UFO person, and then we have somebody that really doesn't necessarily subscribe to all of that. Say we go out to an area, we find something potentially intriguing. Well, automatically my mind's going to go right to the Dogman aspect because that's what I gave myself a pre notion of before we went out there. And same thing, you're going to think it's Bigfoot. The other person's going to think it's UFO. And then the person that has no sort of foot into the cauldron right there would say, I don't know, this seems more logical based than any of the other sorts. So yeah, I think when you give yourself a preconception about how something is going to be unfolding and you give yourself that pre-notion, yeah, it's gonna obviously influence your thought process about it. But I do think that there is a lot of truth to the cyanocephaly, but I also do know there are a lot of evidence supporting that maybe some of their encounters with the supposed cyanocephaly were racist depictions by other people that were super pompous, meaning no different than today. I mean, I've always been an artist. Growing up, I loved Jeff Hardy. He used to be like a WWE wrestler. I've always, thought being able to put in cool colors in my hair, man, style my hair certain ways. I'm a big fan of Tekashi 6ix9ine, who's an American rapper with same color hair as I do. He actually sent me a ton of stuff to make my hair like that. I used to do a lot of logos and things for him. Moral of that, though, is people get that okay, that they think they can decipher something, okay? Meaning, sure, when you look at me, you assume a certain depiction of who I am, yet I am very peaceful now. I try to be a very good person, but I mean, I grew up in the ghetto, okay? So that is always part of something inside of you. So looking at me, somebody might think that you can just push me around and, I'm a pushover, and I don't put myself in those situations, but I'm just trying to say, that's not who I am. So if someone wants to try to push me around, all right, let's do this. Let's dance a little bit, So what I'm trying to hint at is, yes, I think that naturally people are going to have different opinions about things, but also there is still a ton of substantial evidence, I mean, supporting the cyanocephaly and such. I'm just saying there is also some evidence saying some of these encounters could have been racist, meaning if you and I were Roman and we were super pompous and we thought because we had our gold armor on and we showered all the time or bathed that we were better than tribal people that maybe didn't have access to that, and they would come down wearing animal furs and things, so maybe they didn't smell as pretty as we did. We were using Blossom soaps and things, and then immediately describe them as animalistic now and less human than yourself, when in actuality they could have just been wearing animal furs and such. But again, like I said, I do not think that falls into everything with that whatsoever, but I do think a portion of that is that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I was just thinking, like, how much of this is like, I think the word I was looking for was psychosomatic, where people
Yes.
kind of, they kind of like they're so intent on, if you tell someone something repeatedly, even like kind of a red car, there's a red car out there's a red car, you're going to find a red car. As soon as you go out, you are going to see
Yes.
that red car. You know what I mean? It's gonna, that red car is going to appear somewhere down the line, because it's almost, um, it's a bit of it's a bit of an odd one. Um, in all of the people that you've spoken to, has there ever been a standout story that you've had on your channel? One story that's like kind of a story where, let me say, where you kind of, you've gone to bed and it's, you've gone to bed and you've woken up thinking about it and you thought, "Do you know, man, that just is crazy. I can't get my head around that one." Has there been one of those stories you've heard?
There's actually three of those. the first two are from the Michigan and Wisconsin area. So one of them is from Luther, Michigan, where a deputy named Jeff Chamberlain actually spoke about this on Monster Quest. And after that, he didn't talk about it again because, people ridiculed him, but he came to a isolated cabin where there had been reports of vandalism. And when he showed up there, it looked like something was trying to chew in through the side of the door, and there was bloody slobber and claw marks all around this cabin where something had been trying to claw through the windows. And he said it was much higher above his head. So he called in the Michigan Game and Fish Department Wildlife that came in, saw all the same tracks and information that he had seen, dismissed them from the case, then proceeded to tell him that they did find some sort of strange canine DNA that wasn't on file. And also they did follow those mysterious tracks into the forest, but that was that. So that's an interesting one. And then you have another person that worked for Michigan Wildlife, where he would go and pick up roadkill. And there was a case where he had loaded this deer into the back of his truck. He's filling out the paperwork. All of a sudden, his truck starts shaking. It's pretty late at night. Looks up in the rearview mirror and he sees the largest wolf head he's ever seen in his life. And he said this thing was reaching in with some sort of strange arm and just grabbed this deer as he started speeding off. It ripped the deer out. So that's another interesting one. And then the third one would probably be the Martin case up in Palmyra, Maine, because again, you had a whole family that saw this and spoke about it once. And after that, they had no desire to talk about it again and stuff.
Okay, right. And all those stories you can find on your channel?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's superb. That's excellent. Again, I'll put links on the description here. That's fantastic. One question I wanted to ask you, with your experience, when people say that Dogman is a genetically modified or has something to do with the government or maybe with what's your thoughts on that? Do you think it is that if it's anencephalide, then it's going to be in a way a gene pool. It's going to be a hybrid of them, yeah. But if it isn't, then it's going to be genetically altered, because the things people are seeing out there, people can look at AI and people can they look at the AI of a dog man, and the AI of a dog man that's generated is generated it looks basically, for all intents and purposes, like a super soldier. Long talons, long claws, got a long muzzle, big teeth, its eyes, huge, forward-facing predator. There's a lot of confusion. What do you think about it, Star Fox?
It's great stuff right there, man. And to be quite honest with you, I don't really subscribe necessarily too much into this supposed underground breeding program, meaning the Cynocephali were a warrior-based culture. Okay, they were hellacious, and Alexander the Great really enjoyed fighting with them, not against them. Okay, so sure, you could then take them and potentially give them better weapons and such, and teach them things. Sure, I get all of that, but at the end of the day, like I tell everybody, we got to deal with science here and logic. Okay, if in nature a baboon was able to just mate with a grizzly bear or a hyena, it's going to have happened. Okay, and because it hasn't happened, that means it's not possible. So in my eyes, it's not possible to sit here and take something and combine DNAs. You have to have something that is equivalent in the beginning, like a grizzly bear and a polar bear, okay, or a red wolf and a fox or coyote, or things that are very similar, okay. A little tiger and a lion, okay, sure, ligers. You have to look at the reality aspects of that. So do I think they're just breeding some super program? No. Do I think potentially they might have gotten their hands on some of those and are using them? Sure. But I'm also a very big believer of anything that breeds, like you and I, can be unalived. So sure, those dogmen and things look interesting and could be scary. But man, I have some of my squad that are former special forces, SWAT, some straight up high power artillery. I don't give a crap what that thing was. It would get smoked. Okay. I mean, we're talking about like
Mm.
people that go out 15, 20 with, they got like grenades on them, dude. They have automatic weaponry, semi automatic. I mean, I just don't see how that could be something of benefits to any sort of military. I mean, sending that in, I don't know. I mean,
Mm.
yeah, they used to use swords and stuff, but all right, let's say you send in 100 cynocephali with swords, right?
Mm.
Give me 15 to 20 Navy SEALs or Army Rangers with weapons. I'm going to take those 15 and I'm going to smoke those cynocephali, man. A couple of headshots, pop, 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 blow up some kneecaps, grenades. Like, I mean, we're talking about something Alexander the Great said he was able to dispose of with swords. So what the heck's a rocket launcher going to do to this thing?
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, we have to remember that the cynocephali were hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So they,
Mm-hmm.
in their time, they were a great asset. They were a great asset to
Yes.
any fighting force because they had armor, they had spears, and they knew how to use them. They knew how to use them. So they were kind of the elite soldiers, adopted as elite soldiers, scouts almost, because of their senses were
Yes.
heightened and stuff. Nowadays, I don't know. It one thing that gets me when people say that, okay, look, it's a genetically modified and it's a creature that is a super soldier. I get it. I get what they're saying. Um, but it always, I don't know. It always gets me how it's controlled. If it
Mm-hmm.
is such a predator and it's so big, which these things are, and are huge, and they are just, how did they know not to kill uh, a vast number of livestock? Um,
Yep. This is what
how
I
do they
mean.
know
These
not?
are valid questions. Exactly.
How do they know not to kind of like kill if a person comes across them? How did they withdraw themselves? How do they stop themselves from that animal impulse of, fight or flight? They're not a creature that, because they're just made. They would not automatically because of their a cat. Take a normal pussycat, because of its claws, its teeth. You get it in a corner, it will come out scratching and clawing and make its way out. It won't just kind of put as a priority, squeezing past your legs and going away. And it will just fight like a fox. It will corner a fox and it will just come out fighting. But these things, they're sighted, they're seen, sometimes close up, but they're never actually, um, that I've heard of so far, killed anyone. People have gone missing, but I've never heard of anyone actually being torn apart by one. Have you ever heard of a story where they have?
It's all great stuff right there too, and that's just what I mean about everyone just being logical on stuff. And I mean, I've heard a ton of those, but again, there's really not much that can be verified about those. I mean, it's a lot of potential hearsay, or we had a friend down in here that had a friend that lived out in the woods. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's definitely something that potentially does occur, but again, there's a lot of misconceptions about that. And like you just said, man, my pet squirrel, dude, you know,
Mm,
he gets pissed off, bro. Like the other day, man, she didn't necessarily mean to, but I was trying to grab her because this chick fed her like Skittles I was hanging out with, like a bozo. I mean, I don't even eat
yeah,
those. And my squirrel was going ballistic. So I was trying to put her to bed. And man, I never even realized how sharp her freaking fingernails are. They're like razor blades. It went right through my middle finger almost. I mean,
um,
down to the bone, but I mean, enough where it gave me a little bit of skin removal. So, yeah,
yeah.
man. I mean, that's like, I don't know how much my squirrel weighs, but when she's pissed off, bro, she's a terror to deal with, man.
And that's a squirrel, dude. That's a
That's just
squirrel.
what I'm saying, but that's a squirrel, dude. So now imagine something like a raccoon, a wolf, or a dog man, or something along the lines of that, and dealing with a pissed off one of those. Because, like you said, even a house cat holding Christmas trees, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to wrap up on this, it's only a quickie, really, Star Fox, and it's just really so that we can get talking, get to know your channel, so that
Appreciate you, man.
people, so people can. But one thing I wanted to ask you: do you think we'll ever get down to the bottom of it? And what will it take to get down to the bottom of Dogman Enigma? What do you think it will take?
Great stuff right there. And before I answer that too, yeah, even though we do the bi-weekly show over here on Midnight Lycanthropy, if you ever want me to pop on here like this, just give me a little bit of a heads up, man, like you did, and I will definitely be there. And yeah, man, I honestly already think that here at the North American Dogman Project, we do have a ton of clarity on that. I mean, we have facts that there are hyenas still here in the United States, whether they're spotted hyenas or cave hyenas. We have baboon tracks, and all these things fall into different reports of what these things look like. And also recently in Russia, I really do hope I'm able to get more information from these brilliant minds. But just the fact of what I've got so far, there was an 18,000-year-old jet midnight black sort of canine that they have no idea where it fits into the lineage, and it's a little bit of an elongated back to its head. It's got like these vampire-like fangs, and it just came out of the permafrost, and it is immaculate. And personally, I think that's our dog man right there, man.
Interesting. I'll have to have a look at that. Yeah, I actually know you. I did, didn't I? You sent it to me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you did, sir. Yes, I remember that now. Thank you. Yes, that was interesting. Yeah, that thing was crazy to look at.
Right?
Crazy.
Doesn't look like anything else, man. And it literally looks like the depictions of what people say. And I mean, yeah, it's just the head, but I mean, the head's in perfect condition. I mean, they can look at it different in colors because I have other canine cubs and wolf cubs where you can see the differences in the teeth and the coloring. And yeah, man, this is jet black, like midnight black. And as far as I know, they don't really know of any canine that is completely midnight black. I mean, wolves and such, have that occasionally, but they're not just midnight black. They still have some like gray and whites in them a little bit. I mean, this thing is literally oil black,
Yeah. I know. It's got that sort of, yeah, it's got that sheen to it as well. It's got that the fur looks nothing like a
Yeah, sleeky
dog.
too. That's what I'm saying. Sleek and
Nothing like,
short and kind of shiny. Yeah.
yeah, it's got nothing at all like the fur you'd find on a. I thought when I first saw it, I thought the closest that you could get to it would be like a Newfoundland, but from the
Yep.
point of view of its fur, but only because Newfoundlands are quite a different species of dog. They're the only dog that
Yes.
can swim. They can swim swim with a breaststroke. They can actually open their
Yes.
rib cage and swim with breaststroke. So, but their fur is kind of like really waterproofed. But it looked a bit like that, like it was really waterproof, like an oiled kind of,
Mm-hmm.
and
That's why
being
it's
that
bizarre.
it's been preserved. I mean,
Yeah.
it was preserved, and you'd think that any residue or any that it wouldn't have that. It would be like almost like a powder, like after all those years, it wouldn't. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't expect it to look like that at all.
No,
Um,
immaculate.
Absolutely immaculate. I know. I mean, well, hopefully, with the North American Dogman project. And with your channel as well, which is a Midnight Lycanthropy.
Don't forget yours,
Hopefully,
man. You're part of the team, bro. It's not just
yeah,
me, man.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
part of my squad, bro. So
Oh, for sure, yeah. And if anyone has got any comments, let us know. I mean, we'll answer them best we can. Also, but I do urge you to go check out Star Fox's channel because, as I say, he's got some really, really great material. Great guests on, and these guests are A class in their field, A class guests. So I would definitely want to check them out. Yeah, if you don't mind, just mentioning again for yourself where people can reach you. So start Midnight Lycanthropy. Like, could you say it for me? I find it difficult. Midnight Lycanthropy, isn't it?
yeah, definitely, my friend. So yeah, like Phil had just said, as we're wrapping this up, he is bi-weekly host over on my thread, and I'll be back here as well because he is part of my team. But yeah, I deal with science as much as possible, and I try to talk to my scientists every day and just learn as much as I really can, because I encourage anybody out there. Information is priceless and it's beautiful, and especially if you can surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. Just seep it up. I mean, it's taught me so many different things, and I really enjoy being around people that are smarter than me. I mean, I don't care if my science team says I'm brilliant too. I don't look at it upon like that. I look at upon that they're brilliant and that they're teaching me things, and I always want to learn. So, given a choice, if I was able to speak or just learn, I mean, I enjoy teaching people things, but I love learning more, to be quite honest with you. So if I had one choice to learn or, talk about knowledge, I would pick learning, but luckily I can do both of them. So yeah, just always realize that's what we try to do, is not give people platforms without giving some sort of back check. And I mean, unfortunately, even the best of us get bamboozled. Recently, we had somebody come on saying that they had an encounter with a dog woman all over their property. And well, we were finally able to debunk it, but for a while we couldn't. And well, once we did, it was removed. And that's, the battle of the game. But yeah, head over to Star Fox Radio. It's all lowercase. And if you see my name right here, Star Fox _ radio, it will look right like that. And I mean, you can't miss my thread. And the name of the podcast is Midnight Lycanthropy. But again, you can just go to my playlist and say if you just want to listen to Phil talk, or you just want to listen to my science team, or Steve Stockton, or Jessica Jones. I mean, any of the beautiful people over on my thread. Anyone that comes on consistently has their own playlist. So definitely check that out.
Yeah. No, for sure, for sure. Well, I've got one last thing that came to me. This year, in 2024, Star Fox, in the States, has it been a busy year from the point of view of sightings, or slow year? I know I am asking you this for a question because over in the UK, I personally think it's been real, for some strange reason. It's been a slow year on sightings for Dogman, but a big year for sightings for UAPs and drones. I don't know if the two go together. I but there hasn't been an awful lot of sightings like there was maybe the year before. I had a lot more sightings than I have in 2024, but UAPs and stuff, wow, just off the rails, man, off the rails. I don't know if the two are kind of intertwined, whether or not there's a thing going on with them. Who can tell? But it just seems a bit odd to me that one replaces the other. In a way, has it been busy over in the States, your side, with Dogman sightings?
Great question right there. And to be quite honest with you, I mean, that type of stuff's always coming in. Like I got like probably 10 to 15 encounters right now, man, that haven't been added into our database yet, because I have a book that's 548 pages of encounters from all across the world, the United States, broken down into sectors. But we were trying to do our due diligence before we say something is even remotely legit. So yeah, we have a bunch that have come in, but we're still trying to figure them out. I mean, one of the ones that recently came in sounded very familiar to me, and I started looking through a different area, and sure enough, this individual had sent in the same encounter about a year ago, but the location, the time, and the dates were different. So right there, that means you're full of junk. So then we had to go through and then remove his initial stuff from the limbo file and put it into the hot garbage file. So yeah, it's just tough because hoaxing now is very prevalent. So you just need to be more skeptical now than you say might have had to be back in the day. But I mean, ever since the Loch Ness Monster, with the surgeon photos and the original lumberjacks that, dubbed it Bigfoot, I mean, that's pretty much ever since hoaxing right there kind of started taking a big turn, man. So that's just why I think it's important to look back in culture, because as far as I know, Alexander the Great wasn't really had time to hoax. He's trying to be a god and conquer the world,
Sure. Well, listen, Star Fox, thank you very much. And I just want to say once again, happy Christmas, man.
You too, man. Thanks for being one of my good friends, man. I appreciate you a ton. You are a great dude, a great friend, great researcher. And yeah, very glad you responded to me, because out of all the people I reached out to, probably about 20 of them only 2 responded.
Mm.
So yeah, man, good stuff, bro. I appreciate you, man.
Okay. You take care. Have a lovely time the rest of your Christmas, and we'll talk anyway. We'll talk before New Year's, I'm sure. Okay, guys, thank you very much indeed for watching, and just want to say thank you very much for your time, and interesting guy. And I do honestly go check out his channel. I'm going to put the details on the description as well, but it's worth checking out because, like me, it's not a big channel, but it's a great channel because of the content. You know, um, he has people on there which, like I say, they know their stuff, and they are, um, there's no messing about with them. There's no frills. They're very genuine and dedicated to the enigma, which is the Dogman. Have yourself a Merry Christmas.